Welcome back to Invested in You. I am Jack.
And I'm Jack.
And today we are going to be talking politics. We are going to be talking investments. We're going all over the map today.
Yeah.
It's going to be a weird one. We've been gone for a while. Where were we?
We were in Europe.
But we were not together. We were actually in two separate parts of Europe completely.
Yes. He did not want to come visit me while we were there, but that's okay. I am not offended.
Yeah, I was there for
Only a little
3.5 weeks.
I was there for 10 days.
What are your thoughts on Europe as a whole?
It is like a whole nother planet, Jack.
It's different.
You're over there, and guess what? The food's better.
Yeah.
The people are nicer.
Yeah.
The views are incredible. Canada is so flat. 'Cause
Where
when you
we
go
live in
over
Canada.
there-
Where we live in Canada.
Yes, my apologies. In Ontario, there's not a mountain as far as I could see. But over there, we're just in valleys and,
It's crazy.
and lakes and oceans, and it's incredible.
Yeah, the land just seems to be all warped. I don't know what was happening when we had being developed, but
Exactly.
it's a wild place.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we were there for the last little bit. We haven't been doing the pod, but we have been keeping up with news. We've been seeing what's going on. One of the really cool things actually about being in Europe was seeing a lot of the different companies that are big there that we don't even hear about in Canada, at least.
Yeah.
You know, like there was a lot of car companies that we were seeing that we were texting back and forth going, what is that? Like,
yeah,
that's crazy.
for me, it was Scion, right? So I don't know about you, Jack. In North America, I have very rarely, if ever, seen a Scion car, right?
Yeah.
It's like that little lightning bolt almost.
Yeah.
And yet, over there, it was like almost the most common car that I saw. It
Yep.
was everywhere. And it made me think about how many companies are very popular in Europe, very common to see, that we never see over here in North America.
It's wild. There's two companies that come to mind for me. Like one of them is Alfa Romeo. Now, there are some in Canada, but it's very few and far between. You see them all over the place. And I think they're an Italian car company, and then another one is Peugeot, which I think is French, and you see those a lot. It's the one with like the lion standing up on its back legs.
Exactly.
And so that was cool to see. And there was another couple cool things, right? Like at the airport, I sent you a photo in the last pod.
Yeah.
I saw the first time for a company that I studied, I saw their product live in the flesh.
A Plantier scanner.
No, Leidos.
It was Leidos?
Yeah, it was Leidos in the flesh.
Yeah.
It was a Leidos scanner that you didn't... You know how like usually when you go through an airport, you have to take off all your stuff?
Your
Nothing.
shoes, your everything.
You don't have to take off anything.
You just stand in there?
Completely scans you.
Oh, and it does a 360.
Yep.
Very cool.
It's really cool. And so I saw that, which was awesome because I had researched a ton maybe a few months ago on Leidos, and they're an American company. So and they work a little bit in Australia, but I didn't expect to see them.
Yeah.
And seeing them at Pearson Airport was really cool.
Absolutely.
And kind of like defined, I guess, what I believed in at the start when I started researching them and how good of a company they were.
Yeah, when you're researching a company, it's easy to kind of get lost in the numbers, right? Where it's like, okay, this is just a company on paper, just a company on my stock trading app. But then when you see that company in the real world, you're like, okay, this is like a physical representation of the companies that I'm interested in looking at, right? And it can be easy to kind of lose track of that sometimes.
It's cool.
Yeah.
And it's weird because that's a defense company.
Yeah.
So you're not
and they're
seeing,
defending the airports, I guess.
You're
know
not
what I mean?
seeing that a lot.
Yeah. Another company, Jack, Mondelez, right?
Mondelez.
So they're here. They're in North America, right? Milka, right? Really common. You see the chocolate bars.
Yeah.
But over in Europe, they are on a whole nother level.
Oh, you're totally right.
Yeah, they're everywhere. That purple packaging, right?
Yes.
They're super common. They got all their different types of chocolate over there. What's interesting, though, and this is I didn't expect, is they are traded on the NASDAQ. So they are an American company. They're trading on the American market. Yet they're not as common here as they are in Europe.
So they're just completely like European exposed.
Exactly, right? So I guess they just found their niche. They found they got early breakthrough into the European market and been succeeding greatly over there.
Yeah.
Yet, they are an American company and they operate here.
If I could compare it to any company that we see here, it's a lot like Hershey's in terms of the amount you see everywhere, right?
Absolutely.
You don't see Hershey's at all.
No,
I don't know if you noticed that.
In Europe, no.
No.
It's all Milka.
It's Milka. It's wild. And there's also like, what is it? There's these gummies that are Helbies.
I don't see those.
Oh, it starts with an H. I don't know what it is. They sell them here too, but they're all over the place, at least in Poland.
Lots of different types of candy, right?
Yeah.
Different types of candy, different types of cars, different types of clothing. Just so different way of life.
Yeah.
And honestly, we need a little bit of that in Canada. Just
Yeah,
it
a
was
little bit more
chill, a little more relaxed, less focused on, your career and your, don't worry about too much about the future. Just kind of enjoy today.
Well, you know what it is? It's not just that, but it's also that I think that the European Union, it's either the European Union or the individual countries have much better antitrust laws and work for competition, a lot more compared to the US and Canada.
Mm-hmm.
I got an eSIM there for $20.
Yeah.
Unlimited text, unlimited call for the whole travel.
Yeah.
For the whole 3.5 weeks.
That's absurd. Could you imagine Bell or Rogers releasing a $15, $20 SIM card for travelers? That's never going to happen.
It's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, we get killed here in Canada because of, is it the big three?
Well, for me, it's
Bell.
Bell and Rogers.
Bell, Rogers.
There's also like Chatter Mobile. There's
But they're all
Fido.
owned
There's
by-
Telus. But exactly, they're all kind of, Telus is a big one though.
So we just get hit with the most unbelievable prices for phones.
Yeah. Actually, quick little anecdote. I arrived in Pearson Airport after the Europe trip.
Mm-hmm.
First booth I see in Toronto Pearson was welcome travelers, Chatter Mobile.
Oh, yeah.
$40 1 week plan for talk and text. It's like this is
Unreal.
immediately double the price for less. So, anyways,
And it's directly based on competition. They have what you would call, I guess, an oligopoly or an oligopolistic competition.
Exactly.
In Canada, and they use
They take advantage.
They abuse it.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's move on to one of the first stories I thought about on this podcast, or I wanted to talk about on this podcast specifically. There was a huge outage. A huge outage. And I was really lucky. I came back from Poland last Thursday. And on the Friday, there was a massive outage with CrowdStrike. Now, what happened exactly? Well, CrowdStrike, released this update. And when the update got released, it blue screened all of the systems. And what CrowdStrike basically is, they're a cybersecurity company, and they give these massive companies software,
security,
basically security and software for them to run their systems.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the problem is that they supply massive airlines, hospitals, and a slew of other businesses, right?
Wow.
But the problem is with airlines and hospitals, you need to make sure your systems are up.
Of course, at all times of the day.
Yeah, so when this happened and all these things are blue screening, everyone gets stuck in the lines. No one knows where the baggages are.
Yeah.
Nobody knows where flights are being rerouted. It was insane. It was a massive mess. So I'm really happy I came back on the Thursday.
You got very lucky. You barely missed it. And it kind of calls into question, should one company have access to all of these different departments and companies?
Yeah.
Right? Where it's once again, we're getting into monopoly territory where we're relying on one company to provide the security and the upkeep of all of these large, very important companies and industries.
It's a complete reliance issue. I mean, we saw it during COVID. When companies rely on one person, one thing, one company to get all their stuff. If that goes down, you've got to have a backup. You've got to have something else to go on, or you've got to spread your eggs, man. You can't have all. Is that the saying? You got to spread your eggs.
Put them in different baskets.
Oh yeah, that's what it is.
Eggs in different baskets.
You can't have all your eggs in one basket.
There you go.
So you don't have to spread your eggs. You just have to buy more baskets.
There you go. And I think what you're referring to, Jack, is the chips, right? Over COVID, where car companies, when the chip manufacturers shut down in China and overseas, they couldn't make new cars.
Yeah,
right?
Huge supply chain issues.
Exactly. And I think we learned a lot from COVID, on both the business and the personal side. To, put your eggs in different baskets because you cannot rely on one company. We're seeing that once again with CrowdStrike. And I think we're going to learn from this again.
Yep, I hope so.
I hope so too. Jack, I want to jump into the Canadian economy a little bit.
Okay.
So we have got some pretty poor performance in the Canadian economy.
Bad. It's been weak.
Not even, comparable to the S&P 500.
Nothing.
With the US stocks, year to date, the US economy is up approximately 16%. Canada is in the single digits, middle to low single digits. We have not seen large performance, but that might change. And that might change due to our old friend, the interest rate, right? It always comes back to it. But as you guys might know, Canada dropped the interest rate by 0.5%. couple months ago, and we were the first major company to do so. The United States have not yet dropped their interest rates, and so economists, investors are expecting the Canadian economy to outperform the US economy in the next year or so, right? Because we were first to cut the rates, and so we should be seeing better economic growth and GDP growth over the next year.
Yeah.
Right? Might be a little optimistic to say we're going to beat the United States. You know, this comes from IMF. They were doing the research on this, a little study that came out. But we're definitely going to see some GDP growth. They were expecting 2.4% in real GDP growth, which is really high, for the entire Canadian economy. So I'm hoping to see, some outperformance. We've discussed in the past that 48% of a Canadian's portfolio is Canadian stocks. Yeah. I think we're going to see some happy Canadians in the next year.
Yeah, I'd like to see some of those rates come down, especially, I mean, in terms of people's houses right now, right? Like it's unbelievable.
That's a whole podcast around housing in Canada.
Maybe we should do a full pod on just the housing in the future.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Jumping out of Canada and over to the US.
Joe Biden?
What a wild couple weeks, eh?
It has been a bit wild if you are paying attention to the United States political system. Yeah, we have had two major
events. I mean,
happen.
Not unheard of. I mean, it's happened in the past, but like wild.
Yeah.
I go away for a couple weeks.
Yeah, we both leave and all of this happens. So it's good to be back. Hopefully we normal things out. But Jack, do you want to talk about what happened?
Yeah, a couple things. Well, first of all, there was an attempted assassination of the 45th president of the United States, Donald Trump. I want to talk on two things about this. One, absolutely insane, and I think it scared a lot of people, especially investors. What's going to happen? Is this going to become a thing now? Are people going to start trying to assassinate whoever is running for office? Is this an attack on whatever they believe in, right?
Yeah.
So, and we know uncertainty becomes evident in the markets and where stock prices are going. So we want to be careful there. And then secondly, Joe Biden drops out of the running.
Yeah.
3-4 months before the actual election.
Exactly. To me, it was expected by a lot of people, right? At a certain point, approximately a week ago, after that not very well done debate and press conference where he was, stumbling around a little bit. It was actually the polls were saying that Harris will most likely be the Democratic leader over Joe Biden, and of course the market's always right. He stepped down, so it shows some instability. Right, it's uncertainty in the markets.
I don't think it's been confirmed yet, as of recording this podcast, that Harris will be.
You're correct.
Yeah,
but it was the market was suggesting that Joe Biden will not be the leader of the Democratic.
Kind of the main theme between both these events. Uncertainty, and the market doesn't like uncertainty. They want to know what's going on, right? If you're investing in something, it's much easier to invest in something that's stable.
Absolutely.
If there's news flying around, it's going to hurt you. But weirdly enough, the market hasn't moved much.
Yeah, and I think the reason for that was first and foremost, Joe Biden dropping out was a little bit priced in, right? After the recent events the past couple of weeks where he hasn't necessarily been the top of his game, the markets were expecting him to drop out. So that is something. But the assassination attempt, at least personally, I would expect there to be massive
way
moves,
more of a jump than there was.
Right? Because now we're introducing this whole, like you mentioned, is this going to become a trend of, okay, when large political figures or, leaders of private companies make decisions that people don't agree with, are they going to resort to violence?
Exactly.
And eliminate these people?
And people were thinking that this might even affect like a lot of the gun companies in the States. Will there be a heart of change from the Republican Party on gun laws?
Exactly.
I don't think there will be.
No.
Probably not.
Yeah.
But it is really interesting, and we're going to keep up to date with it and see where this goes. But this is going to be a wild presidential run.
Yeah, unfortunately, dropping out this late in the race, it's going to be hard for whoever his replacement is to catch up the slack. Yeah. Right? They're one thing you did mention earlier, Jack, off the podcast, was the age difference.
Yes.
Right? So there was a large, discussion about Joe Biden's age. now whoever's going to be replacing him is almost certainly going to be younger.
They have to be. If they
than Donald Trump.
It would be a horrible decision for the Democratic Party
to put in another
80-year-old. That would be dumb.
Yeah.
You've gotten out of this situation now.
Yeah.
Put someone in younger and then use that narrative to push your campaign.
Yeah, now Trump is the old guy in the race, right? Exactly.
Yeah. And at the same time, for the Republican Party, they're fuming. They're fuming about this because they'd spent so much effort and time to try and prop up the fact that Biden was unfit. He couldn't do another 4 years. This isn't going to happen. Well, now he's not in it.
Yeah.
Someone else is going to go. So what's
right.
the narrative going to have to change to?
Yeah.
And this is all going to lead to, I think, what's going to be, historic election. It always becomes that, though. Isn't that the case?
Yeah, there's always something that goes on that makes it, this is the election of the century.
Crazy.
You know?
It's never light. It felt like it was going to be just another boring, it's the same two people running. What's going to happen?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be wild.
But I got something, Jack.
All right.
What do you think is the company out of all time has had the greatest return, right? So what I'm talking about is this can be a company that has gone bankrupt. This is a company that is still around. What industry do you think it's in? What company do you think it's in that has returned the greatest amount in its overall lifetime?
Can I ask you like a few questions?
Hit me with some questions. And I want you guys at home to kind of play along, right? Because you're definitely going to go to like, it's Apple, it's Microsoft, it's NVIDIA. It's not one of those.
Is it still around?
Yes.
Okay.
It's in a long tenured industry.
Okay. Is it... Can you give me like the broad industry?
Sure. It's in consumer consumption.
Is it Walmart?
No.
What is it?
It is a nicotine company.
Oh.
Cigarette company founded in 1920.
Marlboro?
Altura.
Altura?
Has had the greatest return of all time with a percentage. If you invested.
Wow.
If you invested since 1925.
Okay.
It would now be, the percentage return is 265 million %.
Wait, are you serious?
If you invested $1 in Alterna, it would now be worth $265 million.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Now, of course, $1 back then was not worth $1 today, but
dude, $1 back then was still put it in.
Exactly.
Put it in.
Is that not unbelievable? And there's a large reason for this. In the 70s, 80s, 90s, people were, investing in these nicotine companies because everyone was like, smoking's great,
yes.
and everyone should be smoking. But then in the 2000s, it's a bit of a taboo subject, taboo company now. And so people are not really following it, not really wanting to invest in it. And therefore, there's low expectations for it. But people are still purchasing nicotine products. There's always a next step, right? When it moved away from cigarettes,
it went to the gum.
Then it went to the vaping.
Then it went to lozenges. Now it's pouches.
Now it's stickers. Now it's little pouches you put in your mouth. There's always something else that the market, it doesn't expect. It thinks people are going to drop out of the nicotine addiction, but it just keeps on growing.
So Altura, what is it?
Altura.
Altura. So they've been in the background just making different types of nicotine products?
They keep beating their earnings.
Wow.
Because the market is like, all right, people are going to stop with this nicotine, right?
Yeah.
They know
eventually it's got to stop.
Eventually it's going to, taper down. And so the projection, right? Let's say, for example, there's this large company called Zyn.
Okay, yeah.
Right? With the nicotine pouches.
Yeah.
Right? Before Zyn was vaping, and vaping, remind me of the company.
Stealth.
No, there was Stealth, and there was also the biggest one, Juul.
Oh, Juul, yeah.
Juul. So Juul, with the marketing towards children, right? They went through this whole big lawsuit. Basically, Juul tanked, right?
They died off, yeah.
They died off, and kind of the vaping industry as a whole took a hit because of Juul, right? So after vaping, it was like, all right, we're done with the nicotine. And so 5-year forecasts plummeted because it's like people are now going to drop out. But then, Zyn came out with these little pouches, and Altura's just been benefiting from all of this. There's always the next step.
Yeah.
Right? And because those little pouches that have gained super popularity, now they're beating their forecasts because they were artificially low because that product didn't exist yet.
Yeah.
Right? So who would have thought? But
Wild.
a nicotine company, a tobacco company, has had the greatest return of all time.
It posts the highest returns.
And that makes sense that it's like a company associated with addiction.
Yeah.
Right? What other publicly traded company? There's no, drug.
Maybe if there's like a casino.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the other like would be Eli Lilly, which is a pharmaceutical company. They manufacture drugs like that, and they've had great returns.
They've done well. Novo
Nordisk. Absolutely.
Crazy. All right. Well, I think that wraps up the podcast today. It's been another great episode of Invested in You. My name is Jack.
And my name is Jack.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks for watching.
And yeah, have a good one.